Tonight, new rules for Canadian travelers.
It adds a layer of safety in public transport.
If you are traveling by plane, ship, or train, you now need to show proof of full vaccination, something the immunocompromised say is a long time coming. Plus,
seeing firsthand the devastating effects that COVID-19 can have on the body, especially in pregnant women.
Getting the shot to vulnerable members of the population. Medical experts are pleading with pregnant people to get the vaccine as immunization rates lag in the demographic. And
the kids love it. Doesn't matter how old they are. They could be 80, 90. You know what I mean? It just appeals to some sort of the inner child.
Ghosts and goblins are lifting the spirits of one Ontario town and taking them right out of the COVID-19 financial slump.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Serapio. While Canadians looking to travel within the country by plane or train are doing so differently today, you now need to show proof of full vaccination to board. And as we hear from the CBC's Lorenda Redekop, well, it's a move many are welcoming.
I'm jumping for joy because I could possibly see my dad again.
It's been 3 years since Eileen Davidson has seen her father. He's an artist living in Thailand. She's a single mom who has arthritis and, given her compromised immunity, hasn't wanted to fly during the pandemic. But it's been hard.
I miss him. And he had health scare during the pandemic. I couldn't be there. Sorry. I couldn't be there for him. And being a single mom with a chronic disease, I need my family, but he's across the world. So it's been really difficult not being able to see him and missing him, and also worried that I'm running out of time with him.
Most likely, her dad will fly here in December.
The government is allowing a transition phase. For the next month, any travelers who aren't fully vaccinated can show a negative test. And that negative test option is available until next February for any foreigners currently in Canada who are leaving the country.
But ultimately, we want to reach a high threshold, not only of travelers, but in Canadian society, so we can end this pandemic.
Health experts say this should make travel safer, since fully vaccinated people have a much lower risk of both getting infected with COVID-19 and also transmitting it.
It means that the risk that they are sitting next to somebody who is actually having an active infection right now and could transmit the disease is dramatically reduced.
Via Rail says it's mainly been business as usual today, despite having to go through vaccine certificates.
So far, we have one train that left 3 minutes late. So passengers are prepared. They expect it. They've been going at this in restaurants or in different public venues.
Eileen Davidson says her next flight will likely be in February.
So excited because I just applied to go to an arthritis conference in Quebec City.
But she hopes airlines keep a close eye on other health measures, such as masking and air ventilation, to protect people like her. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
With that, let's take a look at the numbers on this Saturday, because Ontario is reporting just 356 new COVID-19 cases today. As is the trend, the majority of infections are in people who are not fully vaccinated, although 126 cases are in people who have received 2 doses. Now, the 7-day average of new infections has dropped to 353, and sadly, 4 more deaths linked to the illness are also being reported today. Now, the Ontario Medical Association is urging pregnant women to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The association says right now this group is getting immunized at a lower rate than the general population, and that is a problem because if pregnant women do catch COVID, well, experts say the consequences can be severe. Paula Dehacek has more.
Early in her second pregnancy, Caitlin Magura was faced with a choice, whether to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
So in the beginning, I was a bit hesitant. It was a new vaccine and we didn't know much about it, and the information wasn't really there as far as pregnant women getting vaccinated and any of the effects on the baby. But after much research was done and the studies came out, and speaking with my OB and my family doctor, I decided it was the right decision for me.
Magura says her work as an ICU nurse also played a role.
I've seen firsthand the devastating effects that COVID-19 can have on the body, especially in pregnant women. We do see pregnant women often, and it's that decision and working with that population really, kind of made me not hesitate when it comes to protecting myself.
Magura may have decided to get the jab herself, but the Ontario Medical Association says many pregnant women are still on the fence.
A lot of the bigger cities have good vaccination rates, but once you come down to more rural and definitely the northern area, the vaccination rates are far lower.
A major concern because research shows if pregnant women do catch COVID, they're more likely to end up seriously ill and in intensive care.
So they're not going to be able to look after their newborn. They may not even see their newborn for months because they may still end up in the ICU for a longer period of time. And unfortunately, we are seeing both mothers and babies that don't survive the infection.
The OMA is urging family doctors to talk about the vaccine with their pregnant patients, something midwife Tama Cross is doing already.
Everything is often questioned, whether it's safe in pregnancy. So I think it's really reasonable that they expect a very fulsome discussion about the COVID vaccine. And as healthcare providers, we just have to expect that that discussion may take some time. We need to take the time to explain that it is safe.
Caitlin Magura agrees. She says if a friend were to ask her advice, she'd tell them.
Staying off the internet, staying off of word of mouth and not what their friends think, but getting their information from a trusted source, feeling confident in their decision, and obtaining all the knowledge from their doctors that they can.
As she prepares for baby number 2, Magura has a busy few months ahead, but she says getting the vaccine means one less thing to worry about.
Knowing that when I go into work every single day, continuing to fight this battle, that I'm protected, and it just makes it adds that extra layer of peace of mind.
Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has authorized emergency use of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for kids aged 5 to 11. Now, this long-anticipated move does pave the way for more people to get vaccinated, upwards of 28 million more American children. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control is expected to make more detailed recommendations on which children should get vaccinated next week. Here at home, Canadian regulators say a decision will not come before the middle or end of November. But Canada is expecting 2.9 million child-sized doses of the Pfizer vaccine if it is approved.
You can even wear a costume on Halloween if you want to these clinics. Just make sure the costume allows you to roll your sleeve up to get vaccinated.
Well, of course, that's the Toronto Mayor, John Tory, and he is hoping to use Halloween to encourage people who still are not fully vaccinated to treat themselves to a COVID-19 shot. The city says it has dozens of vaccine clinics running today and tomorrow as it approaches its target of fully immunizing 90% of residents. This weekend's push is called Vax and Treat. It is focusing in particular on areas where vaccination rates are low. Now, while many areas ramp up on the road to COVID-19 recovery, one small village in central Wellington is already thriving. We're talking about Lora as it wraps up Monster Month this Halloween weekend. And while there were initial fears at the start of the pandemic, the quirky community has come out the other side stronger than ever. We get their story from Dale Minukduk.
It's Monster Month in Lora, the streets filled with ghouls and goblins, creatures hanging off local storefronts. You might think it's a spooky scene straight out of a Tim Burton movie, and you'd be close.
It's like Tim Burton, but with an M.
Local artist Tim Murden started building what's called the Twilight Zoo 19 years ago. Today, there's over 80 installations. Monster Month helps fill the gap between summer and winter holidays, driving thousands of tourists to come visit.
The kids love it. It doesn't matter how old they are. They could be 80, 90. You know what I mean? It just appeals to some sort of the inner child.
While the installation provides a fun scare, there was a real fear for local businesses when the pandemic first struck. Peggy Anderson Coates opened Sweet Distractions November of 2019. 5 months later, everything was in jeopardy.
We hadn't even made any money at that point, and I didn't know when lockdown was going to lift up, and so we were just basically doing what we had to do.
Left with a stockpile of candy meant for March breakers, locals rallied around Coates and bought gift baskets full of sweet treats. It's just one example of how Lora pivoted during the early days of the pandemic. The local BIA worked with the township and closed off vehicle traffic when the province first started to reopen, making it a prime destination for people desperate to get outdoors.
Larger urban centers, the GTA, and people provincially reintroduce themselves to Elora and Fergus.
Today, some small business owners are experiencing unprecedented revenue.
There was actually a raise from my busiest year ever. We were up 21%.
Marty Van Vliet owns a local distillery and antique shop. In his 25 years operating in Elora, he's never seen the village so alive.
Elora's charming. It's kind of a magical little place. It was sort of a bunch of hippies came here in the 70s and gave it a sort of very great bohemian feel. Lots of artists doing handmade creative work.
Monster Month was scaled back due to the pandemic in terms of events, but with the increased awareness of Elora, they're hoping to be back and bigger than ever in 2022. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Elora.
Well, time now for our first look at the weather. Let's go to Safia Kambalia right now at the Weather Network. I take it, Safia, the hat has nothing to do with the rain.
No, I just felt like wearing it today. It's monster night here in the newsroom. I think I'd fit in Elora. What do you think?
I think you fit in anywhere. Go for it. Although I feel underdressed, I say go for it. You look great.
We still have one more hit where you can catch up and we can match here. But I have to see what I have brewing in my witch's brew over here for a pleasant or a spooky forecast. Michael, you know what? It's going to be pretty decent Halloween-wise. Perfect for all of we witches who will be riding off into the night. Will be windy, though. We're at 9. See what I did there? Yeah, windy witches. We're at 9, so a little bit of rain coming around the GTA. You gotta have fun with it, right? A little bit of rain coming in for those of you in Eastern Ontario. Lake effect showers is the name of the game for most of the day tomorrow. The winds will be gusty, though, not to make light of it, 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, hugging any of the shorelines. For any of the trick-or-treaters, that will really be the story, because a few overnight showers. We hang on to most of the heat we had today into the overnight period, into tomorrow morning. A few sunny breaks will come, and actually it's pretty decent for all of you little ghouls and goblins heading out trick-or-treating for Sunday evening. I'll have your full trick-or-treat hourly forecast with my broom in the long range, but 10 degrees we're holding at with some gusty conditions for trick-or-treating. Not too shabby.
Aren't you supposed to end with a cackle?
I will. I'm saving that for the next hit. I'm practicing it. It doesn't sound evil enough yet.
Okay, we'll get back to you. Thanks, Safia.
You're welcome.
Well, let's get serious right now, because the Toronto Transit Commission is still grappling with the aftermath of a ransomware attack that is wreaking havoc. And as we hear from John Tory, the mayor says the city is offering assistance any way it can.
What the Commission and its staff and executives want to do is make sure it continues to be the case that there is absolutely no safety risk to customers or to the employees of the TTC.
Now, an internal investigation was launched late Thursday night after noticing some unusual activity. The Transit Commission says hackers brought in their strike on the network Friday. Only minimal service disruptions have been reported, including email going offline and next vehicle information being unavailable. The TTC also saying Wheel-Trans bookings are offline, but that is something it is prioritizing to get back up and running. Well, world leaders gathered Saturday for a first in-person G20 summit since the start of this pandemic. There are many high-priority issues on the docket this year, and they include climate change, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and vaccine equity. As we hear from the CBC's David Cochran, leaders are being pushed to act on all those fronts.
Justin Trudeau and the other leaders arrive at this G20 summit under increasing pressure to do more to fight COVID.
The pandemic is not over, and there are startling disparities in the global distribution of vaccines.
Vaccine equity is a priority of the host country, Italy. In rich countries like those represented here, 70% of people have at least one dose of vaccine. In poor countries, it's just 3%.
These differences are morally unacceptable and undermine the global recovery.
And so the push for countries like Canada to step up. Before coming here, Canada had already promised to donate or buy 127 million doses for needy countries. But to this point, only 3.5 million have been distributed. So now the promise to move faster and bigger. An immediate donation of 10 million doses of Moderna, and money to buy 63 million more doses by the end of next year. pushing the total commitment to 200 million.
Canada's commitment of 200 million doses by the end of 2022 is very significant, given our size and given the fact that we do not have our own domestic biomanufacturing capacity.
Good, okay. Thank you, everybody. The other urgent priority of this summit is climate change. The United Kingdom will host world leaders in Scotland next week at the UN Climate Conference. To this point, heavy polluting countries such as China and India are resisting calls to phase out coal or agree to more ambitious targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In many ways, this G20 is a prelude to the upcoming climate conference, because if the leaders can't find common ground here in Rome, there is a very good chance that leaders hoping for significant climate commitments will also leave Scotland disappointed. David Cochran, CBC News, Rome.
Now, as we just heard from David, by many accounts, the G20 summit is a precursor to the UN climate conference in Glasgow that starts tomorrow. 25,000 delegates are arriving for the summit, also known as COP26. Now, activists from across the UK and Europe gathered in Glasgow today, and many, well, they are already skeptical the summit will result in a lot of promises but little action. World representatives from nearly 200 countries will begin discussions on a new climate pact tomorrow. Climate scientists have repeatedly urged for concrete measures to cut greenhouse gas emissions in order to slow global warming. Well, a Toronto-based charity has played a key role in helping a group of LGBTQ Afghans escape the Taliban. They left Afghanistan after a months-long international campaign to help them flee Kabul. Rainbow Railroad, a group that helps LGBTQ people escape persecution, worked with a British charity by the name of Stonewall. Together, they helped airlift members of the community out of Afghanistan. The charity had received hundreds of requests for help from Afghans fearing for their safety. Now, the first group of 29 people boarded a military flight yesterday. It is bound for an undisclosed location in the UK, this according to the British government. They hope this will only be the first of many more to come. Toronto's Greek community is celebrating the 200-year anniversary of the Greek Revolution, marking the significant date with a plaque in the city's downtown. Our mayor, John Tory, was at the celebration.
To the Greek community, thank you for being a role model for being a community and a faith community that stands together in solidarity, stands together in tribute to your own history here, which is a proud one. Thank you for the contributions that you continue to make to our city to this day.
Organizers say this location marks the first Greek Orthodox church, language school, and community center. The building located at Jarvis and Shooter Streets was bought in 1912. The grand reopening of Toronto's legendary El Macombo Club is tonight. Our Lady Peace is the headliner, and they will also release their new album, Spiritual Machines 2. Our Yelena Adzik spoke to members of the band before tonight's show.
We are off tucked in a little corner with a big mural of graffiti behind us with the band Our Lady Peace and, of course, urban sounds, as you would expect. Guys, we are standing in front of this giant mural celebrating Spiritual Machines 2. The fact that we're more than 2 decades after the first one, gotta ask you how you're feeling about this right now.
Well, we didn't predict this, but we're very excited that our good friend Matthew, who's a famous Canadian artist in his own right, was able to, bring it to life even before the album comes out. It's pretty spectacular.
How does it make you feel knowing that you're playing that live for a concert finally happening? That's at the El Macombo. What does that feel like for you guys?
Well, it's crazy to actually get to play the El Macombo for the opening. It is such a surreal and honorable thing to actually do. And, playing in Toronto alone is just always amazing.
And what about you guys? How are you feeling about this?
It's nice to be back. It's just nice to be back and play live music again and share creative ideas in real time.
Yeah, and especially at the Almo, getting to be part of the history of that place and the new chapter for it. And also just to be, we've played some shows so far, they've all been mostly outdoor, and so to be indoors again, we're very happy, excited.
There you go. All right, well, have a great time. Our Lady Peace, you can check out the new album. It drops Spiritual Machines 2. I'm Yelena Adzik, CBC News Toronto. Staying a little bit wet, but it's for a good cause. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, from the spiritual to spirits, let's get back to our favorite weather witch, Safia Kambalia. Hello, Safia.
I got to put that one in my bio.
There we
What
go.
do you think?
There we go. I think this should actually be your headshot for your bio.
You think, should I pose now? And actually, you could join me. I found a wizarding hat for you.
Oh.
See what potions we could cook up for the forecast. Michael, what do you think? Green was your color? Bring out your eyes?
Green is my favorite color. You got
it. My spookiest potion was trying to bring this low pressure system to all of you ghouls and goblins for Halloween night, but all I could manage was lake effect snow rather, for far northwestern Ontario. You will escape my wrath in the south. You'll have a dry, really nice trick-or-treating actually, which will be pretty good for me and my kids. Maybe I'll give this costume a second go. It'll be fairly balmy into the afternoon. You'll even have some sunshine peek out, which is nice because it was a really October-like week this past week after the early October that we had. Okay, hour by hourly for all of you in Toronto. Fairly balmy, nice around the dinner hour for all the really young trick-or-treaters. And then we have a bit of a wind chill for the evening, so you definitely want to just dress for the weather, but it's dry. That's the take-home message, especially in Windsor. A few degrees warmer. And then in Ottawa, a bit of a chance more for you in Eastern Ontario to have some of those lake effect showers or some of those lingering low-pressure showers hanging on. But really, 10, 11 degrees right across the board, so it's not a bad Halloween. And it was really nice on Friday as well for all the kids to dress up at school, so that was lovely. You will have some rain, though, lake effect showers on any of the shorelines around the Georgian and the Huron shores, but also north of the city into Barrie and into Cottage Country, and maybe even to extreme southwestern Ontario into the traditional lake effect bands, lake effect regions. How do we stack up to past years, though? Not too shabby. It was really balmy last year in 2021 for the Halloween that we had outdoors, and then in 2020 it was much chillier, but we did have some rainier years before that. So at least we're not piling up the winter jackets and the umbrellas. I do remember the umbrella out in 2019 and 2018. So it'll be quite nice for the trick-or-treaters. But if you do have any outdoor Halloween decorations, the wind will be the big factor. And my spookiest graphic for you is the wind chill I leave you with. Because there will be a little bit.
Okay, not so wicked. Well appreciated though, Safia.
Be safe, everyone.
Thank you. You be safe too. Thanks, Safia.
You're welcome.
And that is our show for you tonight. I'm Michael Serapio. Thank you for watching. And remember, you can catch up on the news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have a great evening and have a wonderful, fun, safe Halloween Sunday. You've been watching CBC News.